All right, let's have some tips and tricks about managing risks in a project. And I can tell you, the PMP exam, there are lots and lots and lots of questions about risks. Really, a lot of questions. Okay. Um, because, as I mentioned a lot of times in my training or in my project management and practice sessions, we can never avoid the risks in projects. We will always have them, and we need to know, how to work with risks, how to deal with them. Okay. Remember something very important. Risk is an event that hasn't happened yet. It's a potential event. It's an uncertain event. It can happen, it may happen, and it may not happen. So actually, in the PMP exam, I don't know if I've put it here as a tip or not. Uh, I don't, I will not just, I'll go back. So you know that that particular question in the exam is talking about, yeah, here it is actually. Uh, Here it is. I've put it here as a sentence actually. Okay. No, on this one. The S should be here. Okay. So actually, a risk is a potential and uncertain event. A risk can be positive. I mean, can have a positive impact, potential positive impact. We're talking here about an opportunity, and it can have a potential negative impact, and we're talking about a threat. Risks should be recorded in the risk register. And you know in the exam that we're talking about a risk in case it uses terms such as may, might, probably, could. Let me add could. Okay, could. All right, etc. All right. These are terms that refer to risks. Okay. Risk probability is never 100% or 0%. So if we have a probability of 100%, that means we're not talking about an uncertain event anymore, but we're talking about a certain event, and that's not a risk. And it cannot be 0% because if probability is 0%, that means we're not talking about an event at all. Okay, that could happen because it will not happen. So it's no more a risk. Okay. However, an issue is recorded in the issue log. An issue is always negative. It's always a problem, okay? And it is something that has already happened. So please remember this. We usually take preventive action for risks, and we take corrective actions or workaround for issues. Now, it's very important that you really make or distinguish between these kind of actions, because in the exam it will put you in two or three situations, where you need to really pick the right answer. And something very important in the PMP exam, it does not use the word preventive action. It will describe the action from which you will understand is a preventive action. Or it will describe a corrective action from which you will understand is it actually a corrective action. But it will not say implement the corrective action. No, it will not say that. It will just implement, and it gives you the action itself. Okay. Risks, they appear due to a triggering condition. Okay, so there must be a triggering condition in order to have a risk. All right. So, and that triggering condition must be related to the project. So there could be risks, and they could have a trigger, but if in case it's irrelevant to the project, then no need to include it in the project's risk register. Okay. Now, here's the risk management process, which you need to memorize. Now, you need to have a risk management plan as the first step. Sorry. Then next, you identify the risks, put them or record them in the risk register. Then perform a qualitative analysis. That's assessing the probability of occurrence and the impact if it happens. And this qualitative analysis, it will be used for risk prioritization later on. Some techniques to perform qualitative analysis include the what if scenario, the alternative analysis, decision tree analysis, etc. Step four is to perform quantitative analysis, but only on those prioritized risks. Okay, so we do not perform quantitative analysis on all the risks, only on the risks that have been prioritized. Okay, some techniques for quantitative analysis include the expected monetary value and the Monte Carlo analysis, which is a computer-based or software-based technique. Okay. Then once you're done with these analysis, then you plan the risk responses. Again, we plan the risk responses only for those prioritized risks. Okay. And then you implement the risk response and update the risk register, and you monitor the risk. Okay. So steps 1 and 2, those include all the risks, but from step 4 to 7, no, from step 4 to 6, those are only for prioritized risks. Okay. Um, let me pull it for you. Actually, let me pull it for you. Okay. So let me insert a text box and let me write it down here in red. So I'll write it down. Okay, and let me write it down in red. Steps for 5 and 6 only for prioritized risks. Okay, all right. Steps 4 and 5 and 6 only for prioritized risks. All right. Now, some terms which you need to know. Volatility, that's the opposite of predictability. Volatility, that's when, something has got a quick rate of change. Uncertainty, that's the opposite of understanding. That's like, being unclear about the present or the future. Complexity, that's the opposite of simplicity when we have multiple interconnected factors. Ambiguity, that's the opposite of clarity, and that's when there is a lack of clarity about some event. Urgency, that's assessing how quickly the risk response needs to be implemented in order to be effective. Dormancy, that's assessing how long after risk has occurred before its impact is discovered. Proximity, that's assessing the amount of time before the risk can impact one or more project objectives. And connectivity, that's assessing if the risk is related to other individual project risks. In 99% of the PMP exams, there is this drag and drop question about urgency, dormancy, proximity, and connectivity. We do have that question, and we will see it, I think, in the next session. Individual project risk means an event that may affect one or more project objectives. Project risk. Sorry, I had a phone call. It disconnected me. So individual project risk, that's a risk that could impact one part of the project, and overall project risk that could, affect the project as a whole. Okay. An insurable risk, that's a risk that can be transferred through buying an insurance policy. Okay. That's an insurable risk. And that's one of the ways how to respond to a risk, by transferring it. Okay. The term known unknowns, we mean by them the identified risks, and usually they are covered by the contingency reserve, which is included in the project budget, and the contingency reserve is used to cover for any damages that could happen because of that risk. Okay, in case it materializes. Unknown unknowns, those are unidentified risks, and they are usually covered by the management reserve if they happen. So let me add it here also, if they happen. If they happen, included in the project budget. Okay. Okay. The management reserve, that's for covering any unidentified risks in case they happen, but the project manager cannot touch the management reserve, for example, and use it for covering for other issues in the project. No, the management reserve is reserved only for the force majeure, for example. In case of an alarming situation or an approaching risk, please do not continue with the same plan or pace. So in case in the exam, describes an alarming or an approaching situation, you need to change the plan or change the pace in case that's described in one of the answers, okay? When a new law is introduced, for example, in one of the questions in the PMP exam, it talks about a new law that is introduced, update the risk register, okay? Because we need to understand what could be the potential positive or negative impact of that new law, okay? Also, do not respond to a risk if you do not understand how it will impact or affect the project, okay? So keep this in mind. That whenever there is a risk, we need to understand it. We need to analyze it. Once we have identified it, we need to understand it and analyze it, understand how will it impact us. If we don't understand that, we cannot take action. Actually, we cannot take action. We cannot respond. Okay, so you respond only when you understand. Okay, so please keep this in mind. Do not respond unless you understand. All right. So let me put for you in red here. And when you, that's why it's very important to always review, analyze before taking decisions. Responding is a decision. Remember this. When serious safety problems arise, when there are, oh yeah, by the way, started asking questions in the PMP exam about having serious safety problems. Okay. So when there is a question of having some alarming problem, stop the process. So you need to stop, okay? Don't continue because there is a safety problem, there is a danger, on the lives of people. So that stop the work and talk to the usually start the change process, but usually after you talk to the sponsor or the stakeholders, because you don't just start the change process. Okay. Okay, let me put in a stop the work or just review slash discuss with team slash stakeholders and begin a change process. Okay. Um, the risk breakdown structure, usually it's about correct external organizational. You can pick types if you want. Risk appetite is the limit of what is inconsequential. Risk tolerance, that's the limit of what is acceptable. And some we say risk reverse in case we don't want to take any risk. However, we say active acceptance, that's when we take action towards the risk, and passive acceptance, that's when we don't take action, we just monitor the risks. Next slide, we will see how to handle or how to respond identified risks. Okay. Now, in case of a threat, what you can do is you can actually pick one of those possible response strategies. Either you can accept that the threat exists. So actually, we're not taking any active action. You just monitor the risk. Or you choose to mitigate. That's taking action to reduce either the probability or the potential impact. And again, the PMP exam actually mitigate. It will describe from the description of the action, you will understand that it's about mitigation or acceptance or trying, for example, buying insurance policy or avoiding, for example, that's leaving the situation, quitting, avoiding the situation. Or, for a threat, you can choose to escalate, and that's only when the situation is out of your authority or out. So, escalating threat is one of the response strategies. Pick that as an answer in the PMP exam, but only for situations beyond your power, okay? For opportunities, also we have 5 response strategies which you could either accepting the opportunity without taking any active action, or enhancement, trying to increase the potential impact or the probability, or you can share it with a partner company, for example, or partner project. Um, you can simply exploit it by taking action, or in case the opportunity is actually out of your scope or authority, then you can escalate it. And remember, for threat opportunity, once you escalate, no further work is requested from you. Nothing further you can do actually. Okay? Please remember that. Okay? Once you escalate, let me add it here. Okay? Let me add it. Now I go back. Let me add it. So let me add it. Once you escalate, no further action is required from you. Not even monitoring. No, nothing. Nothing. No further action is required from you. Okay. So once you escalate, no further action is required from you. Okay. Again, same as in quality and procurement, auditing risks. So actually, risk audit examines the effectiveness of the risk management, whereas risk review, that's examining the effectiveness of the response plan. So risk audit for examining the effectiveness of the process. Risk review, that's for examining the effectiveness of the response plan. Okay, so please remember these two words. We can use contingency reserve if an risk materializes, and we can use management reserve if unidentified risk materializes. I think that that's unnecessary because it's actually necessary. Where is it? Here it is. Actually, that's not necessary because we have already mentioned that. When an issue is discovered, update the issue log. When it update lessons learned, register and organize assets. I will also have mentioned that previously, but okay. So actually, these are our tips and tricks for the risk management. We will be practicing in the next session a lot of questions, very similar to the ones you might have on the PMP exam on the risk management. All right, so let's put this in a separate video.